Let me ask you about your former partner, Paul Manafort. And if people are just tuning in, we're talking with Roger Stone, author of the book Stone's Rules. He's spoken with Robert Mueller's investigators and testified before a congressional committee about purported Russian collusion. Paul Manafort, Roger, now on trial. Before this is the first Mueller prosecution that's gone to trial. How do you think that's going?
Well, I don't think it's going too good for the government. I think it's going to go worse for the government because they've bent a lot of rules and they've told a lot of lies. The central question here, Frank, is, was Manafort under surveillance? And if he was, in 2016, and if he was, why was he? We know he was under surveillance in an earlier period, 10 years ago, when he was working in Ukraine, and he was cleared. And the U.S. attorney who cleared him, Rod Rosenstein. But now we're indicting him for crimes that happened in that period in which he had already been cleared. None of the charges against Manafort have anything to do with Russian collusion or the 2016 election. This is clearly, payback. This is a vendetta because he embarrassed the Obama Justice Department and State Department by winning a Democratic election in the Ukraine for a candidate they don't like. I know that some of your listeners may be a little unsophisticated about this, but working for a foreign political party in a Democratic election is not a crime. Being paid millions of dollars by that party is not a crime.
In fact, many of Obama's former campaign consultants and officials, Jim Messina, most of their business is actually now consulting with foreign left-leaning political parties.
But recognizing that they have kept Manafort in a cement box with only a slit for light, that they have kept him in solitary confinement 23 hours a day when he has not yet been convicted of any crime, is an effort to break him. By the way, the family name is Manaforte, and he's not going to be broken because he's a tough Italian-American.
Are you concerned, Roger, honestly, that you could end up being indicted? Clearly, they have an agenda in going after everybody that you know, everybody that you've ever worked with. Clearly, you're a polarizing figure even long before all this stuff. Are you concerned?
Frank, I think this is about my book, The Clintons' War on Women. It's the fact that I put out the definitive story of the Clintons, and I was co-producer of the incredible documentary, Banished, the Danny Williams story, the story of Bill Clinton's illegitimate black son who was banished by Hillary. 38 million people saw that documentary online. I think this is punishment for taking down the Clintons. I can't tell you what action they will take against me. All I can tell you is they will deeply regret it because I'm a fighter and I will fight it. This is about being punished for the simple crime of being for Donald Trump.
Roger, do you see a day when Donald Trump sits down with the Mueller team? Based on what we've learned in the past couple of days, going the back and forth that happened, do you see that happening in the near future?
I don't think that'll ever happen. I think it's far more likely that the president will terminate the compromised Mr. Mueller and Mr. Rosenstein, and maybe even the Keebler elf himself, Jeff Sessions. We've got a corrupt cabal running the Justice Department, and they are doing so on a political basis. Isn't it interesting that every single prosecutor involved in the investigation into Roger Stone is an active Democrat and supporter of Hillary Clinton? How can that be? I thought we were supposed to have a Justice Department devoid of politics. This is a vendetta. It's a witch hunt. It's a fishing expedition as they probe into every single corner of my personal life, my family life, my private life, my business life, my political life. No Russians, no WikiLeaks, no 2016 election. Let's just find out if Roger Stone paid for a ham sandwich out of the wrong drawer in 2011.
Roger, you are, as I mentioned, a bit of an expert on fashion as well. How does your former partner, Paul Manafort, the man that you recommended to Donald Trump to hire as his campaign chairman, how does he walk around with a $14,000 coat made from an ostrich?
Well, let's just say this. Manafort is one of those people, and he's a good friend. He was an usher in my wedding. I've known him, we're boyhood friends. But he's one of these people who thinks expensive is good. And that's not necessarily true when it comes to your wardrobe. If you've read Stone's Rules, and I know you have, we tell you how to dress for success, and we give you the basic rules of how to buy quality garments, how to take care of them, and so on. Let's just say Manafort spent $6,500 for a suit, the finest Italian fabric, the very best Italian tailors. It never fit. It looked terrible. It always looked terrible because he chose a silhouette, he chose a style that was not right for his build. So I wouldn't be caught dead in an ostrich skin jacket, to be honest with you.
Now, is it better to buy an expensive suit and chintz out on the tailoring, or is it better to buy a cheaper suit and have it tailored properly?
No, it's better to buy a quality garment that is sewn, not fused, so there's no glue holding it together. And if it is a dark fabric, say a gray, navy blue, and so on, then dry cleaning is a very bad idea. You know why a suit begins to shine after you have dry cleaned it a couple times? It's because the dry cleaning chemicals that they use break down the dyed fabric, and when a piece of thread is holding black dye, it's already stressed. So you'll burn through a suit in 2-3 years. It'll be done. You'll have to throw it out. I address all of this in Stone's rules.
Now, Roger, given the prism of hindsight, knowing exactly what you know now, would you have done anything at all differently during the 2016 campaign? There have been a lot of questions raised by the president's critics and I'm assuming by the Mueller team about your interactions with the anonymous hacker, Guccifer 2.0, questions about your contacts with WikiLeaks editor Julian Assange. Seeing everything that has transpired, knowing about the Mueller probe and everything, would you do anything differently, and what would you do differently?
Well, first of all, let's take those one by one. My contact with Guccifer 2.0, which is thrown in my face constantly as proof of Russian collusion, is 24 words. It's entirely public. You can read it. It was on Twitter direct message, not exactly a 007 move if you're conducting an espionage. And it's benign. It's banal. I mean, it has no substance. It's basically a brush-off. And it happens, more importantly, almost 4 weeks after WikiLeaks has already published the documents that Guccifer is accused of having hacked. So, in retrospect, I probably should not have had this innocuous exchange with him, but there's nothing there. It proves absolutely nothing. As far as WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, to be very clear, I never received anything from them. I had no advance knowledge of the alleged hacking of the Democratic National Committee until the lawsuit in which the Democratic National Committee is suing me, and my lawyers are finally allowed to inspect the DNC servers, at which time I will prove that they were never hacked by anybody, including the Russians. Oh, you say those servers have been destroyed? Did you use bleach? This is so obvious, it's ridiculous. So we've issued an indictment against 16 Russians. Great press release, terrific move, undercut the President of the United States while he's out of the country. The Russians will never go to trial. Their very nicely written indictment is BS, and they know it. Oh, there were Russian fingerprints? Well, Assange released documents regarding Vault 7 showing that the CIA has had the technology to break into Joe Piscopo's email and make it look like Roger Stone did it when Frank Morano really did it. Please, give me a break. Rosenstein, give me a break.
If people want to check out your books, they can purchase them at stonecoldtruth.com, including Stone's Rules and the Making of the President 2016. This is the man who first had the idea and first urged Donald Trump to run for president, and it took him about 30 years to do it, but he got it done. If you want to make a contribution to Roger's Legal Defense Fund, you can go to the website whoframedrogerstone.com. Roger, I hope you stay out of prison long enough to get together for martinis.
Well, I think that's likely, Frank. I would urge people to go to, make it easy, stonedefensefund.com. These people are trying to break me. They're trying to destroy me. This has cost me business. It has put an enormous financial strain on my family. It's put a strain on my marriage. And every American should be concerned about this, because if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. They just make things up.
Finally, Roger, is there anything that you can do in terms of colluding with the Russians to ensure Joe Borelli's next re-election?
I'm a big fan of Joe Borelli, and I certainly hope he gets reelected. But he doesn't need any help from the Russians.
Maybe some Russians in Brighton Beach or something, you know.
People know he's doing a good job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Roger. We'll talk to you soon.